afternoon. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Gwen Mitchell with CoBiz Richmond. I'm actually with Moyo Institute, and I am here at CoBiz Richmond this morning to spend a few minutes in conversation and contemplation. I want to ask a question today. How many people live inside your head? And before we go into the discussion, I'd like to connect with the higher frequency energies. So let's start with our feet flat on the floor, our spine erect, and take a deep breath in. Exhale. Another deep breath in. Exhale. One more breath. Exhale. And as we breathe, just feel everything within us just coming to a singular point, a point of alignment and harmony. So now let's invoke the higher frequency energies, connect with the God of your understanding, however you relate to Source. Deep breath in, exhale, deep breath in, exhale. This connection is always present. It's always here. We simply turn our attention inward to become aware of it. Deep breath in, and let's connect with our higher sacred self, the indwelling presence that is our guide. And when we pay attention, it keeps us out of trouble. Take a deep breath in. And let's connect with the divine presence that's animating everything in existence. Deep breath in and exhale. Let's connect with our ancestors. Deep breath in, exhale. Let's connect with the great compassionate light. And feeling ourselves totally in alignment, just exhale deeply and relax. So I want to start with the question, how many people live inside your head? Have you ever given any thought to that? And let me just say that we can start with the stern parent. It's a possibility. We can start with that person who made a comment that disturbed us. We can start with an ex-partner. We can start with our teachers, our preachers, a loving parent, kind, generous, But how many people live inside your head? Have you ever stopped to think about that? So there are so many personalities within us, and there are so many programs within our minds that have been established by our prior experiences that sometimes it's difficult to really know what we feel, what we think, what is really our truth. And so I want to just encourage you to spend some time in quiet and then listen to the voices as they start up. You might spend some time in the mirror and see what voices are coming up for you. I recall a sermon by a missionary when I was probably about 10 years old. The title was Silly Women, Silly Women. And this message was pretty much a message of body shaming. And while I didn't have words for that in those days, now I recognize it for what it was. And those programs that get dropped in actually often shape how we interact with the world, how we interpret our own experiences, and how we show up or fail to show up in our own lives. So I want to invite you to become aware of the fact that these programs are there. I remember several years ago, the question arose in me, if I released everything that was said to me by a parent, a teacher, a preacher, another adult, what would be left? What would be here? And I think that's a really useful exercise to go through, to really begin to inquire, to do a bit of self-inquiry about what is true and what remains beyond all of this conditioning and all of these programs. So, you may have had a teacher who said that you weren't capable of something. I think of my geometry teacher in high school. What I recognize now is that she just really did not know how to teach geometry. And I think of a teacher in college who said that you just cannot write. And I realize the irony is that I've spent my life and career and writing has been an essential part of that. So if we allow these programs to come in and shape our perceptions of ourselves, we will live in a very limited frame, a very limited idea of what we're capable of who we are, and what our lives can be. So that's one point. The other point is when we interact with other people, often these voices come up, voices from our past, things that we've observed our parents in their interaction. For instance, if our parents had a stressful relationship or an argumentative one, or one where one partner did not fully appreciate or recognize the value of the other partner, then we have often absorbed these things in our consciousness without realizing it. And so what happens is when we begin to interact with people in our own lives, we allow those perceptions and perspectives to come up and inform our behavior. Thank you for the hearts. And, we form opinions about people when we have early interactions with them. And we think we know who they are. We decide who they are based on something that they say or something that they do. And what we fail to realize is that really for all of us, they're just a continuous sort of parade of personalities that arise as we move throughout our day, as we move throughout our lives. And so no one fully knows anyone else. And we don't even fully understand or know our own selves. And so if we are able to take a step back and really allow ourselves to move out of that frame of, yeah, I know who you are, you're like this, that may be a small portion of what the person is like, or it may be how they reacted in a particular circumstance, but it doesn't necessarily define who they are or who they always will be. So my invitation is to begin to take a step back in your judgments about others, in your determination about who that person is, and allow yourself the space to discover who they are in this moment, who they are in that moment. Now, I recall an earlier circumstance where one of my personalities likes bread, but another one doesn't eat those kinds of things. And so when you're in a relationship with someone and they're actually trying to prepare a meal for you, and one day it's bread and the other day is not bread, that makes for a difficult assignment. But it's all a part of having the flexibility to be present for whom is showing up in this moment. So, how many people live in your head? Is it your dad? Is it your mother? Is it an aunt, your grandparent? Is it a preacher? Is it a teacher? Is it a partner? Is it an ex-partner? Is it a relationship that broke your heart? These are the things that we have to begin to unpack in order to be able to show up in our world, open for experience, allowing ourselves to be guided by our intuition, allowing ourselves to, learn lessons from our interactions with people, but also to be conscious about how those lessons become informants, so to speak, informants in terms of how we are interacting with others. And so I want to leave you with that thought today, to really begin the process of spending a little time in quiet. And one of the things that I also would like to encourage you to recognize is just because you think something doesn't mean it's true. In fact, we often believe that the things that are going on in our minds are the absolute factual truth. And it may be true, it may not be true. And it may be a function of our perception, it may be a function of how our perception is being influenced by those earlier experiences and those earlier programs. And in fact, my teacher says that when you reach a certain point, you can actually see that the thoughts are not yours most of the time. These are just thoughts that are in the thought sphere coming through your head, filling your mind. And so when we are aware of the fact that thinking is happening, and this is a natural byproduct of the way the brain works, and that we're connected to everything all the time, and that we're absorbing from the environment. We're absorbing thoughts, we're in energetic impressions, moods. You can be in a very good mood and walk into a space where people are extremely unhappy and find yourself feeling that as well. So, this is just an invitation to spend some time becoming aware of what's yours and what isn't, right? And to be willing to keep an open mind as it relates to interacting with others, and begin to become conscious of when a past experience is actually shaping how you're interpreting someone's behavior. I recall a situation at work once when I was managing a group of people, and one of the supervisors that I was responsible for had an interaction with another employee, and that supervisor's reaction was so over the top to what the employee had said that I found it necessary to ask her to really take some time to look at where this reaction, where it stemmed from, because oftentimes we're reacting out of a hurt or a disappointment, or conditioning that we have actually taken on from our parents. And so when she reflected on that, and I said to her, where did this come from? How dare you speak to me in that tone? That kind of notion. Where have you heard that before? Her response was, that came from my mother. That's the way my mother talked to us. And so we take these things on, and they are a part of our way of being in the world without our ever examining them, without our ever going inside and really looking at who we want to be, how we want to show up in the world. And so for those who are just joining, we're talking about how many people live inside your head. How many people live inside your head? How many messages there are that have been implanted through conditioning and programming that's really shaping the way you interact with people in your life today. And so my invitation to you is to spend some time and get really quiet and allow yourself to be in the silence to see what thoughts are arising, or even stand in front of a mirror and see what thoughts are coming up. You begin to see that there's so much going on, and there's one personality saying one thing, another personality saying something else. And in fact, there's a lot of back and forth in your mind. We call that the inner dialogue. The inner dialogue is when, one part of that conditioning and programming is showing up, and another part of it is responding, like a thought that was dropped in by someone: you're never going to amount to anything, right? And the other personality coming in saying, who are you to say that to me? You don't know me. You don't know what I'm going to be. And I'm going to prove you wrong, And so these warring ideas, these warring programs that have been dropped into the mind are at work in the background, like the operating system, right? like running these programs and we don't even know they're there. And sometimes they're in our conscious mind, but most often they're in our subconscious, or they're in our unconscious selves. So we have a lot of opportunity to um, unpack this, to begin to look at what is really true for us. And if we take out all the conditioning from teachers, preachers, parents, past lovers, um, people that we pursued and felt rejected by, we can begin to get clearer about ourselves, about our truth, about what we are needing in a given moment. So that's my invitation to you. And if you have a number, if you can think of a number of how many people are living in your head and just put that in the chat, that would be really cool. You know, I could name about 8 or 9 people that were living in my head before I started this unpacking process, you know. And I'm happy to say that now what I notice is that there's a very slowing down of thoughts, and there's much more witnessing of thoughts, and they don't rule me anymore the way they did earlier in life. And so I want to encourage you to be willing to enter into this process. And one of the things that's really helped me in this whole discovery process, so you have 6 positive and negative. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. And this discovery process is really, really important because, you know, these beings living in our heads are shaping our relationships with others and coloring the way we see and show up in the world. So just know that it's possible for the inner dialogue to be quieted down. It's possible for the inner dialogue to stop. I'm going to start in a very soon, offering during these 30 minutes a little process of connecting to joy, and recognizing that when we have more joy coming up, we are actually more attuned to our true essential nature, that the person that was there before all of these things got dumped in, that's what we're trying to connect with, our essential self, our true self. And we want to experience the spaciousness that allows us to interact with others in a way that is meaningful and fruitful, so that we continue to grow and they continue to grow. So I appreciate your sharing. Yeah, both negative and positive folks are living there. I recall a former lover making a statement to me that is literally permanent. You know, it's a permanent awareness. And what's true is that it no longer bothers me, but it really was a perfect example of how hurtful we can be to others without even realizing it. And the reason there's so much conflict and war and what have you in the world is because of the unhealed hurt in individuals, in each of us. And it's so easy to say something that will impact the life direction of someone, Many of us actually have been living to prove folks wrong, to prove to them that we are not their limited idea of who we are, and that we can go beyond that. And that often produces like a striving and some anxiety around it that is that can be excessive. It can be extreme, and it also can be like motivational for us to just go to the next level. But I want to just encourage you to really, really, really look closely at what is your motivation. Is it to prove you're better than your brother, you're more intelligent than your sister, that your dad was wrong when he said that to you? Like, really look at what your motivation is. And is it that I feel passionate about this thing that I'm doing and I love it and it really gives me fulfillment and joy? And if I had to work on it 24/7, it would not be too much. I mean, if that's the kind of place that you're coming from. So it's just really helpful to look and see like what is driving me, what is motivating me. And in this process, am I also leaving room for balance in my life? Am I taking care of my um, psychological self? Am I taking care of my intellectual self? Am I taking care of my emotional self, my physical self? Am I taking care of my spiritual self? So, all of these things are important to have balance and to be able to show up as an integrated person, as a person who's not likely to fly off the handle because something like a program got triggered. Um, and so, yeah, that's what I would like to leave with you today, to share with you, and I want to invite you just to close your eyes for a few moments and let's just drop into the silence. And this won't take but a couple of minutes. Our feeling world is really important. If we pay attention to what we're feeling, and also be willing to investigate where are those feelings coming from. Know that we are divine beings, that we are creative and powerful beyond measure, that we are manifestors, and that we're constantly creating and manifesting what's happening in our lives, that we're attracting to us what we're vibrating with. And if it's something that is less than what you want in your life, recognize that the work might need to start here. Like, am I nourishing self? Am I nourishing my spirit? Am I nourishing my physicality? Am I sovereign? How many people are living in my head? Are they in agreement with each other? Are they combating? How much inner dialogue is going on? And know that we always can drop into the silence, drop into the inner space, in the present moment, drop into the breath. and become fully present. And take a step back and begin to observe and witness what's going on internally. Take a deep breath in and exhale. And feel your essence. Deep breath in and exhale. Bring your hands together in the Namaskar mudra at your heart. Give thanks to the God of your understanding, your higher sacred self, that indwelling presence that's here to lead and guide you to exactly where you're supposed to be. To the divine presence, to our ancestors, with a deep bow of gratitude to our ancestors, to our teachers and guides, and to the great compassionate light. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. That's peace, peace, peace. Ashe. Yeah, thank you so much for joining this afternoon and for the messages in the chat and for the hearts. And yes, take some time to really begin to unpack what's going on an inner level. And join me here on Tuesday, and we will continue